The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi everybody, welcome to the weekly Noyantis Usergroup meeting. Today is the 28th of September. Wow, time flies. Your hosts are myself and John. Yes, it's the weekly webinar. So if anyone's got any queries or questions, ideas or solutions, feel free to raise your hand and we'll get the topic covered accordingly. Okay, so as always, I always like to give an update of where we're up to. We got the report control update released last week. There is another build actually in progress, and that is covering the basically drag and drop facility, where it's not just. I can show you the approach we're going to take. It's not just drag and drop to report control, but it's actually drag and drop to other Clarion controls. But there is a slight bug on there, so it's not in a releasable state at the moment. But if I just show, basically the idea being that we'll be able to drag from a standard Clarion list. But basically it's not initializing the drop target. So that's the problem I've got at the moment. But the idea is you'll be able to drag from a non-Clarion control, from a non-report control and drop it into a report control, and vice versa. You'll be able to drag from a report control into a non-report control. So maybe drop it into a text box, maybe drop it into a calendar, things like that. So that's the idea, and we will be updating the example app accordingly with that. I do like the idea of being able to drag and drop, drag into a calendar. Maybe you've got a list of appointments or things like that, a list of people, and you can just drag it into the calendar and drop it and automatically book straight away for that particular patient, that particular person, that kind of thing. So that's in progress. It's had some work. There's lots of work last week, but I had to basically divert off because, as you know, you're waiting for the DockingPanes update. That was getting ready for release. I tested it in a couple of our applications, one of which I can't show today because it's actually a customer's project. But it's a larger project with busier screens and more data and so on. And we found, I won't say it's all the time, but we found an intermittent GPF. Different machines were manifesting it slightly differently, but it still put me off doing the release because that was the version I was about to release. So it was being tested on there and being tested at a couple of different places. And
we're not seeing your screen, Andy. I always remind you to share your screen, and then I forgot to do it this time.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, that was my fault too. I check it. Thanks to Alejandro for noticing.
I haven't got the option, and it's not giving me the option to show my screen.
That's bizarre. Okay, let's make you the presenter.
Okay, that's better. Right, I can see the screen.
Much better.
Okay, well, I'll quickly go back to the report control just to show the updated example app, and there will be a couple of other examples. But yes, basically, we can see here that we've got a Clarion list on the left and a notepad on the right, or a text entry, I should say. And the idea is to be able to pick up from whatever and drop it into a report control, and vice versa, pick up from the report control and drag and drop into a whatever. So the standalone example will include dragging from a Clarion into report control and from report control into Clarion control. And then I'll probably ship a couple of other examples, maybe the likes of dragging from a calendar into a report control and dragging from a report control into a calendar, that kind of entity. Yeah. But although progress has been made, there's just one little niggle which is left, and I think it's related to the initialization of the drag and drop. So I just need to put that debug code in, and I'm kind of hoping that gets me a step closer to releasing that, which would be quite nice. So we covered that, but then I mentioned the docking pane. And basically, we did get this intermittent GPF, which was an annoyance. We've basically reworked the code a really good chunk of Thursday afternoon and a really good chunk of Friday. In fact, might as well say Friday was more or less dedicated to reworking the DockingPane class. Now remember, but reworking elements of it, and remember the DockingPane class, this is a much improved version, which had already been streamlined and so on. Anyway, long story short, the much improved version has been improved yet again. So now these are rough and ready examples, so kind of ignore these. Just 1 second, you're bringing them back up. Yeah, this is a rough and ready example. This is just me testing different scenarios. So on this one, we can see we've got pane on the left, got a pane on the right, which in turn itself, we've got 3 panes, but they are all separate panes with their content, and we've got panes on the right, and so on. So see, and Alan, is Alan here today? Let's have a quick look at the attendees. I'll see if we're looking. No, okay. Sometimes he visits and attends quite often. But yes, basically in the version what's out there, it could get some issues on that, on the initialization, and I'm glad to report there's none of that. And there was other ones like on this one, the pane on the left does have some content, and it's immediately on view, so it's visible, but the lazy open is set to true. Now in the previous version, that would have disregarded the lazy open and would have just opened its content. So, but now it won't. So only when I click on that, so it becomes activated, will you actually open the content. So the lazy open is really being adhered to, and so on. Same in the center. So the center, these can open, but and they switch the handle, they switch the content because they're part of a collection, but they're all set to lazy open. So if I open that one first, I will get the content. That will switch the content. That will switch the content, and back again. Pane one, sorry, the first one doesn't have a title, so that's doing its job. So basically, the end result is a much improved version of the much improved DockingPane. That is all but ready. The bit I am just putting in is the automatic save and restore. So what I mean by that is, in fact, settings should have been on there because they're just going in now. So instead of just a straightforward save and restore yes and no, you should have, let's just take a quick look at this. Oh, not that one. Going into the wrong procedure. 1 second. That one. So instead of the yes and no for the save and restore, what you've got now is save and restore with no, yes, manual, which is a bit the equivalent to yes, which you had before, yes, built in, or use a global default. So this is taking the exact same approach as basically this is the exact same approach as the ReportControl, the recent version of the ReportControl takes. So now you'll be able to just say yes, use a built-in. It's just doing that bit in the class. I'm not going to turn it on, but the table is there, i.e. here's one I prepared earlier. So here's a table, DP layouts, and it will do that automatically for us. That's it. And you've got new options to say what to handle with new panes and removed panes. Do you want them removing from the layout? Things like that. And at the global level, what you probably saw there was you could say use a global setting. So you could just go to the global setting now. Go to the new couple of new tabs. So look at our defaults. We've got save and restore on there. So I'm going to say yes. Let's have that on by default. built-in table. The layouts is entirely up to yourself. They can be saved, basically they are saved per procedure and per control within that procedure, but they can be saved per user as well, which is kind of the common approach, if you will. The user A logs in on one machine and they've got their docking panes looking like they look, saved and restored from the last time they used it, and then they log out and they go to another terminal and log back in again, and their docking panes layouts follow them around, so on. So, but that's up to you. If you leave that blank, then basically all users will get the same layout. I set mine to a global variable, something like GV current user, or global GV for global variable, current user, or user ID, and I just store it in there, and that will be saved in the record. The report control uses exactly the same approach. Okay, so that, yeah, it's all but ready for completion. It would have been last week, but there was the issue with the GPF, and I'm glad to report that's now, wow, fingers crossed, solved. Whew, okay, so that is so that's that. Now there's no questions, which is good. That's great. But feel free to have a question. But Bill's here, Bill Rawlins. So Bill, just put you on the spot. Microphone should be open, Bill, if you want to speak. Nope, not there. Well, Bill was saying about.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
Ah, you're there. Okay.
Yeah, I had to click a button on my microphone. No, you discussed here a few weeks back that you were going to do something on creating forms.
Yeah, like you have a question on Skype. Oh, thank you, Leo. I didn't see that.
And you were going to do a webinar on it or present it during a webinar, and I was kind of real curious as to what that entails.
Okay, so when I say forms, I mean like questionnaires, if you will, that type of form. Is that
correct?
Yeah, cool. Okay, yeah. So we'll use our schedule it, which we always do, but this is what's been added to. So this might just give an idea for some people. So basically, let's have a quick look. This actually is in, but it's also being worked on as we speak. So I've gone on to the wrong one, but we have some form types. That's just like a validation table, if you will. Form definitions. So we can see here that I can see Wengel's working. Wengel's on here. Wengel's our apprentice developer. She's online with us here. So we can see here that we've got some questionnaires set up. So if I go into one of these, maybe a physiotherapy evaluation, and I'll just go into this, and we can see that basically you can have. Imagine it's a paper form, an electronic form, and you've got a series of questions, and you might want to, just as people would on a printed form, have them grouped. Maybe personal information, and then problems or whatever, and options, and so on and so forth. So basically, we give them the option to set up their own groups. So we can see here we've got some groups, and you can have subgroups as well. So you can go to any groupage you want within that form. Kind of coming away from that a little, but so we've got the groups. We can say, okay, we've got a general, problems, goals, plan, and then they ask them to sign at the end. For the form, we do allow you to have an image and some text as a header, and also an image and some text as the footer. So the idea being that they could actually use these as pre-printed forms as well. So when it prints, it will actually print like a pre-printed form. So save your stationery costs, if you will. And then you come to the actual content, the main body of the form, if you will, the questionnaire. And we can see here the question. So we're saying, let's take a look, patient's name. We've got the patient's name. It's expecting a text type answer. It's going to ask for the prompt is going to be the patient's name. You can give it a default value should you want to. I'll cover what these are. You probably won't need these, but I'll cover what some of those are in a minute. Allow user to enter related information, and that's really like, let's say you have a question of how did you hear of us? Radio advert, TV advert, search engine, or other, and then say other, and then they expect you to write something else down or type something else, and that's what the related information is. So what it will do there is, if you tick that, it will present basically an entry box along with the question for the related information. And then we've got some characteristics about the question. Is it read only? Is it required? Do you want to limit how many characters it can put in? And if it's a spin, if it was numeric, we could apply spins to it and give that type of thing. So this is very much a one-off task, a setup, if you will. We scroll down, let's have a look at some others. We can see there's a date there. So that one is date of birth. So yep, it's expecting a date for that. Just let's see if there's any others. Okay, we've got some yes, no's. So increase, maintain ROM, and basically they're expecting a yes or no type answer from that. These are all yes, no's, got text, got a multiple choice, single answer. So what that means is they are asking for rehab potential, and basically it's good, fair, or poor. So you can choose. So it should be basically presented. The user should be presented with 3 options for that particular question, and they can just choose one of them. So does that make sense on the type of approach?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. To see that in action, and there's others as well. Other types of things we'll put in. So types of things we allow are text, a number, so it's a decimal number or a whole number, date and time, an image, a note, checkbox, then the multiple choice, single answer, or multiple choice, multiple answers. So it might be which ones of these apply to you, and you could have different boxes and you tick multiples all for the same question, that kind of thing. So flexibility, it gives quite a lot of flexibility. Let's see that actually in action. So if I was to go to go to a form, and I'm just going to say, okay, I'm going to fill in that physiotherapy evaluation. So here's our general section. Got the patient's name, date of birth. So if I type in here, I can type in Andy Wilton, and the date of birth will present me with a date. So I can go back. Not going to give the full date of birth, but you get the idea. And of course, I can just type it in. I'm just showing off here with some of the controls, that kind of thing. So I'll just put it as the first. So that kind of, so there's the questions. Then we come down to that increase ROM, which was a yes, no. So we say, yeah, so, yep. And there's the notes. So I can type in, yeah, you get the idea, A, B, C, D. But there's your extra information. We go down to one, which was prognosis. There you go, potential. And we say, yes, good potential. So on. Thank you very much. Results of the previous physiotherapy, your usual type entries, and then the user can save it. Oh, better give it eval. There you go. And that's stored. Of course, you can bring that back in, of course. And there's your answers, as you would expect. Is that the type of thing you were thinking, expecting?
Well, yeah, I mean, I kind of could see that. I was actually hoping you had something that would like fill in a PDF or one of those type of things. But
Well,
this was also very useful.
Well, what we've done with this in the past is the key of this goes into the definition. So you can see that's the definition. That we shouldn't be able to change this now because it's actually been used, but that's the validation we're just literally putting in as we speak. Wengel's working on it on the other screen. But basically, the key of it goes into the setup of the actual form. Now, what I've done with these in the past is we've then put them off to a different device, so the user can have a pre-printed sheet, give it off to a user, give it off to a person. They tick the boxes and write in where they need to write in, just as you would with printed forms as they are now. And then they give it back to whoever, and they get transcribed onto the actual system. Oh, this works with, it's quite nice actually doing it this way. It actually works with Microsoft speech recognition as well, actually. So it's quite nice. So you can actually fill it in via speech. I'll show that in a second. But yeah, so basically that's I was going to say that's the key of setting it up. Now they can do it that way, print it off. Somebody manually enters it like I've just done, or dictates it as you can do. But with that definition, then you can put that off. And what I've done in the past is put them off to a pad. So I presented it as the form on an electronic pad. I didn't use the property grid actually. I think I did it in more of a HTML type interface. Presented it to the user in such a way. It was a Clarion app actually on the pad. Presented it to the user in such a way. They went off and filled it in accordingly on the pad, and then it actually prompted for their signature at the end of it. They signed it. Using an image control, Image EX. I took that image, embedded it actually with the answers, and created a PDF on the fly using the questions. So let's go back to actually filling it back in again. So basically, what it would do is we've got the questions. It would go through the questions, fill in the answers with what they obviously they specified, and it would paint it as a PDF, create the PDF on the fly, and embed the actual image, the signature, into it where required. And then basically that would then create a signed PDF at the end of it, and that was it completed. So that's an option. We're going to be doing that with this. It's going to be going off to a mobile app, but also it's going to be presented on a web front end. And that design, the beauty of that design is it's just a series of questions, and you can present it, as long as they go in the correct order, name, date of birth, date, occupation, things like that. Then you can present it to the user however you want. I'm using the property grid here, but it could be HTML, could be your own custom screen, and then you just take all the answers and do what you require with them. We store them. Obviously, we've got them in the database, but you could create a PDF and still store the answers for analysis, and I'll cover that in a second. But you could still create a PDF from that. You could create an empty PDF and present them with a form like such. Create an empty not fully empty, a questionnaire in PDF format, but with the answers not filled in, and have them just enter the answers straight into a PDF. Maybe that's more what you're thinking.
We do a lot of stuff with where people have to fill out different state registration forms and bank contracts and those type things.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we capture out most of the information. Occasionally, I have to put some on the fly fields in there for to fill in different blanks that we normally don't store. But yeah, I could see where this would come in handy.
Well, once you give them the facility to do all of this, then you you're future proofing yourself, because then this they wanted to copy that form and just morph it a little and so on. Then they could do. And what you're doing there is you're taking the programming onus away from yourself, and you're letting them actually maintain their own forms. So they did have their registration form, and all of a sudden they needed to start collecting a new piece of information, or you started trying to put disclaimers on there, maybe about COVID, if they're going collecting something and things like that, then they could do. They could just edit their own form, and you're putting the workload across to them. It saves them having to come back to you for something which is like very electronically predefined, if you will. So now, one of the other things I mentioned there is if we go to that question setup, I'll go back onto this, and maybe we'll go back to that one. Okay, so we've got that allow extra information. Now, one of the other things we'll be doing is we've got this allow carry forward. So, and I'll mention the design of this in a second, but the allow carry forward idea is maybe it's a questionnaire which the user has to fill in every time they perform a particular task. If it's a medical system, maybe every time they attend a particular medical practice, or maybe in your case, it's a form that they have to fill in every 3 months or every 6 months, that kind of thing. So the majority of the answers are going to be the same. So what we allow here is we allow carry forward, and what that means is the idea behind it is the person A comes in and they have to fill that form in at the 1st of January, and they do so. And then they have to fill it in at the 1st of July, 6 months later. But the majority are going to be the same answers. So the majority of the answers will be the same. So what we do there is we allow them to carry those actual answers forward from the last completed form, thus saving the person filling it in a lot of time and effort. Now, you don't always want that to happen, so we allow it to say, basically optional, allow carry forward. And sometimes we allow them to do it, and sometimes we don't. Maybe it's a medical one where you can't pre-fill it in, and you force them to enter it each time, that kind of thing. So we do that, and basically from a design point of view, the question beneath the surface has a particular uniqueness. We use GUIDs, but it has a particular uniqueness, and that will carry forward. Not carry forward. That if you was to do a revision of this form, and basically what we're just doing here is we've just used that form, so really you shouldn't let me change it. But what would happen is if I double click on that and I say Wengel's just doing the change now, it would recognize it's been used, and it'd ask me if I wanted to create a new revision, and it would automatically create a second revision. So I'd have the form in there, but revision 2, and that would allow me to go off and do my changes, thus keeping the original form intact and all the answers associated with that form intact, if you will. And that question beneath the surface has a particular unique idea, a GUID. So when it gets a revision 2, that question is still that the uniqueness of that question is still carried forward to the next revision, and so on and so forth. Which means that regardless of over time which revision of that form they have filled in, you could still allow them to carry old historical answers forward if you so wish. So we've built that into the design. So coming away from Noyantis stuff here, but I'm just giving the our usage of the forms and our implementation, of the forms. So does that make sense? Is that something you would utilize yourself?
No, it's really good. I could see quite a few different uses for that.
Cool.
Some of our stuff gets printed on government documents, so we can't modify them.
Pre-printed. Yeah, got you.
And I wrote a report procedure that does the each one of those forms. Any of the fields that apply, we can tell it, what X and Y position and what font to use and that type of stuff.
Yeah.
So we can actually programmatically do it, but obviously we can't. But I do like the idea of this because there may be some some of the additional fields that we don't necessarily always store could be put into it as well.
Okay. Yeah, cool.
So,
And
yeah,
the
looks
last one
good.
we did is, we'll come back to that same question. Where was it? ROM, yeah, that one. And just basically, what we allow them to also do is we allow the user. We've got our hidden GUID, which we're using for carrying the answers forward from one completed questionnaire to the next completed questionnaire and so on. And then you also have the user have their own. Now we're going to change it's not going to be called a unique ID, actually. We're going to change its prompt, but it's basically going to be an analysis ID. And what that is really, if they give it, it's optional, if they give it an ID, and we'll say this is ROM, yes, no. Now what, I think that's a range of movement, by the way, I think. But basically, if they give it an optional analysis ID, and then obviously people go off over time and complete the questionnaires, and they've got this answer to this analysis ID, then that gives you a reporting ability. So you can have a look at your completed forms and have a look at who's answered yes and no to it, or maybe it's a decimal, and you can see who's increased and who's decreased over time. So who's got better at things and who's got worse at things, and so on. So all of a sudden, you start to be able to do a lot of reporting on the actual completed forms. So they could become more than just a questionnaire. They actually become, a source of data for reporting and analysis for the user. So it's a win-win in my opinion on it. So that's the idea. Design-wise, because we're quite open on how we do stuff, there is 5 tables. Is it 5? Yeah, 5 tables. The first 3 are dedicated to, actually there's 6 because we allow them to find their own types of forms, but that's kind of irrelevant. But the first 3 are dedicated to the actual form definition itself. So you would have what you're looking at here, form header. Actually, I forgot there's a group table, so it's actually 6 tables, and the first 4 are dedicated to the definition. You have a questionnaire, a form header, and you can store the likes of the revision number, the name, the start date of it, because you might want forms to be pre-set up but in advance, but just not being able to be used yet, that kind of thing. So basically, yeah, this is typical header type information. The name, maybe a start date. We allow for an interface type, things like that. And what type would you have it? General, and that's just a lookup table. So that's one table. The associated table to that, child table, would be the groups. So you can say what groups belong to this form. And there's the groups, and you can have subgroups. In fact, this is scheduled to be changed to be displayed as a tree. So you'd be able to see your groups and your subgroups in a tree format, which would make much more sense, of course. That's your first child table. Then you'd have, and that's just a one-to-many from the header down to the children to the groups. We have a child table for the questions. So all these belong to the header, of course. And you've got your particular question, and on that question you've got the relationship to the group, and then various attributes around that question. So we allow for some text tooltip. Ignore those; they are to come in. They're to come in afterwards. Some help text. In fact, we actually store the help in HTML, so that if the user, when they're completing it and they need help on what it is, we can present a little HTML help window to them to aid in the user's entry of that question. But basically, yes, this is the child table. So this is the questions for the form, a one-to-many from the header down to the questions, and various different attributes, as you can see. And then last but not least is a grandchild table, and it's that one. So we've got our header We've got our groups, obviously, associated with that. We've got our questions associated with that. And for that question, we've also got a multiple choice answers, options, I should say. So the user, so this is the grandchild table. So basically, one header, multiple questions, that question, multiple options. So there's your 4 tables: header, groups, questions, and choices. That's in the definition. That covers the definition of it. And then you switch over to, we've got a client table, and against that client table, we've got completed forms. So these are the other 2 tables. And one is client forms, like a header, if you will, client form header. So this is one record. So this client has filled in, and this person has filled in this form, and we can give it a description. And then you've got the actual answers. So to populate this, we read the questions in one pass, and then we go off and find the answers in the next pass. And we relate the answer back to the actual question on a one-to-one relation. And that's really your table design. Any questions on that?
That's real straightforward, Andy.
Yep, and it works, and genuinely, in the last place, I mean, the new implementation of this is going to be done on all different pads. So not just Windows pad, which we used in the past, and it was a Clarion app. We're going to do it, so basically it's going to go on to Google pads, Apple devices, Google devices, and obviously Windows devices as well, just in case you're still using those, that kind of thing. And also a web interface onto it as well. The web interface, I'll probably use NetTalk on a NetTalk server because it kind of makes obvious. The actual the devices are going to be written, I hate to say it, but they're going to be written in WinDev. So they're going to be, they're not going to be Clarion, they're going to be done in WinDev, so that we can put it straight to Google and straight to Apple, straight to iOS. But it does give a lot of flexibility just from this one design. So they can, like I say, they could add links to their website, so they can be filling the forms in advance. So imagine it is some kind of diary system where people attend somewhere, then they could fill in the questions in advance. They attend their appointment and they've got the attended form waiting for them. So that saves time, valuable time usually in the actual place itself. So and if they haven't and they basically they complete it there, then we can give them a unique login, and they can just do it there and then, a unique login to a link to basically their device. So got a few options, and all that data comes back into the system electronically, and then we can do our analysis, and of course then values can then be carried forward, and so on and so forth. So it's really powerful. Okay, hopefully that helps. You're all paying attention. So now I can see. Any more questions on that before we move on, Bill?
Appreciate you going over that.
Nope,
Thank you.
no problem. And the Windows one, I don't know, when I did it in the past, I used there's a product out there which is compatible with Clarion. I think it's Debenu, and was it WP Cubed or was it Debenu? Oh, I forget which one I used. But basically, to create the PDFs, and I used those, and it worked really well. So I can highly recommend that as well. Right. Paul is saying he's done something similar with Jason. I'll be interested in that. Just open the mic up. Don't know if you've got a mic, Paul. You are unmuted. Should you want to comment? But yes, basically, Paul is.
Yes. In my case, it was for a different purpose, but I used JSON to collect all of the different types of information, very similar to what you've got. We're entering a text field or a date field and so on. and then storing it doesn't require as many tables.
Yes. Yeah.
And I use Postgres as the backend, but MS SQL Server has the same capabilities, and so it's really quite easy to stuff it all in. And then if you're using CapeSoft's JSON product, it's really easy to move all that data around. And we find even searching on the JSON is really fast because it's still connected to a client and so on.
Cool. Well, I mean, yeah, you do. That's not a bad storage mechanism, actually. But would we get our analysis and the carry forward? I don't know. I have to think on that.
I suppose I had to do that because it was we have a client that has a checklist that they have to go through to approve invoices and to approve construction projects and so on. And so we have 3 or 4 of these that they follow, and
right, yeah.
They kept adding things and they kept changing things. And eventually I just said, all right, let's try this. And it worked really, really well. I suppose I could do a webinar on that one day.
Yes, yeah, we should, because I mean, we just covered it here, and we have deviated a little because it's not quite Noyantis, although we're using a property grid and people are here for things. But again, it's all sharing knowledge and so on. So yeah, we could do one, and this will be more polished then because it's in dev, so you're seeing it in a rough form at the moment and so on. But yes, we should do that. There was. What I used to do when I sent it across to the devices, which were just Windows, but I used to send them across JSON. Going back a bit of time when we did this, actually, the JSON wasn't really the in thing, whereas now it's the automatic choice for me anyway. But at the time, we sent them across in XML, and it worked perfectly fine. It's relatively lightweight and obviously flexible. But now it would be, as you got there, it would be JSON would be the automatic option.
Well, and there are challenges with JSON. It's a lot easier for you with tables. I assume in a large implementation they would perhaps be in SQL. It's really easy to set up the joins and so on. Querying JSON has been a little bit more complicated, but over the years that's become easier, and it at least in Postgres, the indexing of that has become so fast now that for our purposes, everything is instantaneous.
I'm hearing really good things about Postgres, and it's one of the things I've got to admit I've never really, I wouldn't say entertained because that's not the right word, but it's never really thought of. I've always just been straight MS SQL, or I have done MySQL for a few projects. But I keep hearing about Postgres and I keep hearing about Firebird. And it's one of these, I should really broaden my my options on them. Really should. Just because I've used them for years doesn't mean it's necessarily the right thing.
In our case, the customers didn't really care or know what the back end was, so we looked at SQL Server, and then we looked at Postgres, and Postgres provided everything they needed. Runs on Linux, runs on Windows, runs on everything, and I had to write a bunch of classes to take stuff from TPS tables. So we can take a TPS table and create the equivalent Postgres table with the keys, with everything, with incrementing, and it takes us half an hour when we're down an hour to convert a client one evening, and away you go. There are gotchas, but people have talked about the SQL gotchas over the years.
Well, that should be a Friday webinar. That I think you just volunteered. John will have you on recording now.
We have the entire month of October open. The entire month of October is empty.
Couple of topics there, John.
Maybe toward the end of the month, John.
Okay, I won't forget. I won't.
That's my worry.
You're recorded now.
And you're not that far away from me.
That's right.
So now we've got a couple of questions. Where are we now? Leo asked a question I'll open that mic if you're around, Leo. And it's saying, is it possible? Hi, Leo.
Yes, I am going to hear you.
So I take it the question is it possible to hide Saturdays and Sundays in a report control timeline? Determine the height of the row. There's two questions there.
Yes.
Well, in a timeline, the scale and the timeline is really entirely up to yourself, I've got to admit. So the timeline is nothing more than a data range from N to N, if you will. So how you interpret that is really up to yourself. So you can put it into date mode, where basically you're expecting the dates to be from one date rate or one date value to another date value, and so on and so forth. Or it could be just a numerical range. It could be time of a day, and so on and so forth. So it's just a number. It's just a lower number and a higher number, and that becomes your trackbar range. So if you wanted to treat it as days but exclude a Saturday and Sunday, yes, it's definitely possible, but you would have to code for it accordingly. So say, for example, you wanted to do 4 weeks. Instead of it being 1 to 28, it would be 1 to 20. And in the embed point where you paint the label, you would basically want to calculate the date accordingly. So calculate the day of the week and show the Mondays and Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Fridays, and so on, and basically ignore your Saturday and Sundays. So from your reading of your data and so on, basically just ignore the Saturday and Sundays, that type of thing, and make sure that they go in the relevant spot. So if you start at the first of the month, and it happens to be the first, sorry, not the first of the month. You start on a Monday and that's position 1. 1 would be Monday, Tuesday would be 2, Wednesday 3, Thursday 4, Friday 5. Then Monday would be 6. So basically you would have to keep a track of that and know that you're on the second week, so you need to take 2 off it. And then on the third week, you need to take 4 off it. And on the fourth week, you need to take 6 off it, and that kind of thing. So yes, you can do it, but you would have to take charge of the intervals yourself, if that makes sense. So it's perfectly doable. And that's how I would tackle it. So I'd have a look, okay, what range am I doing? Maybe you'll give the option to the user, how many weeks do you want to show? So you say, okay, I want to show 4 weeks. So you start painting and you basically have a little indicator of what factor you need to take out. So that starts at 0. So position 1 would be the 1. When you go to a Saturday, detect it's a Saturday, and take off the increment the little counter and exclude it, and know that when you go on to the next week, that the Monday, your counter would be set to 1, so it'll be 1 times 2, take that off it. When you get to the next Monday, well, you get to that Saturday, you increment your little counter, that's 2. You get to the next Monday, 2 times 2 is 4, you take that off. Get to the Saturday, you increment your little counter. Get to the next Monday, that's 3. 3 times 2, 6, you take your 6 off it, and all of a sudden they all start to drop into line. So you'll have one Monday to Friday, 1 to 5. Next Monday to Friday, 6 to 10. Next Monday to Friday, 11 to 15. And the next one, 16 to 20. That kind of thing.
Okay, thank you.
As for line height, determine the height of a row. Let me look. You might be able to do now in the latest version. Icon height, list height. Just looking for you now. Set the row fixed height, which is a property. Get a percentage. You got, which might help you. You've got get coordinates _ height. You've got get coordinates bottom, height, left, right, top, and width. So what does that do? What does that work off? Get the element. Okay, yeah, so you pass the element to it and you pass it an object. Okay, so what I mean by that is the element would be what is it you want to, let's look at what CodeJock mean by the terminology. So the element would be there, the report area. No. Do you have an actual row? Header record area, footer, header records. No, that's not going to help you. No, not for an individual row. Then you have an object, but no, basically you can get the height of certain areas of the report control, like the rows area or like the group box area, but you're not going to get an individual row. We could have a look at that. Row property, no. So that tells you that's an individual row. You have to have a property of that. Yeah, no, that's just a true or false.
But it's also be good if I can set the height of all rows.
You can't set. The only way you can set the height of a row is basically by tricking it. Yeah, basically the only way you can do that is add a blank icon with and the icon being a particular size, because CodeJock doesn't allow you to set the row height of an individual row. What it will do is it will take the height. If you have fixed height rows turned on, then it will take charge of it. If you don't have that turned on, then it will take whatever size it needs for the height. So if you had word wrap turned on, some rows would potentially be taller than others because of word wrap and how much information you've got in a cell. But the trick I use if I want to try and do that is I include an icon. And let's say I have that icon 32 by 32. I include an icon. It's an empty icon in a cell, but basically that will make sure that that row is at least 32 high.
But where can I turn off the fixed line height?
Sorry, say that again. Repeat again, please.
Where can I turn off set row fixed height?
Okay, yeah, that's in the template. So let me just move that. Just come off that. Have I still got the report control here? Examples. Oh yes, because I've been doing your drag and drop. Of course I have. But yes, basically on here, it should be. I think it's under appearance. Might be under options. Let me take a quick look. So is it under here? Rows. Kernel retain, no. Display tooltips, screen bar, no, maybe it's under options then. Rows. There. Options, rows, appearance, fixed height. So you turn it off there. It gives you a little tick, untick when using the word wrap alignment. So as I say, they don't allow you to strictly say, I want this row to be 20 pixels high. It doesn't allow it. So what I do when I need that is I create an empty blank icon of a certain particular height, and I include a column with that in. Just 1 second. Sorry, Ben. Oh, sorry everybody. Sorry about that. Yes, basically, so the way I trick it is I have a blank icon of a particular height, put a column in for that, and I think the column does need to be visible, but you can have it as like 1 pixel and not resizable and so on. So the user never really truly gets to see it, but the empty icon will be displayed in it, thus giving you a particular height for that row. So that's a workaround.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Paul's done that, you've done that. Chuyan, just let me. Chuyan, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hi. What's the question?
I have a refresh on a pane when it's expanded. So not sure how to solve that issue. Maybe you know.
A pane? Is it a docking pane? You say?
Yeah, docking pane. When it's it can hide. It can be hiding in the side. Yeah, when you mouse point, it is expanded. So for us, there is some issue on it when expanded. There's a vertical, a white space bar across the window sometimes.
Well,
so,
at the start of the webinar, because I know you work on Alan's system, don't you?
Right.
So,
yeah. We. Yes.
I did check if Alan was on earlier because we've got a new update. We've done quite a few changes in the docking pane last week, much later than the version you've got. And yes, basically we've done quite a few enhancements in there, and there'll be a new release out tomorrow. So I would say apply the update tomorrow. You've got new
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
You've got new facilities.
What's the version?
It will be 406.
406. It's not beta version.
Yeah, you've got a beta version, and what are you on? 406A or 406B, something like that.
That sounds can you try that?
Yeah, basically the way we work is if you ever see a letter at the end of it, that's a beta version. Our release versions never have a letter at the end. If you see the letter, then the letter is a beta version. So you will have I know I've passed Alan a beta version in the past. So you'll have something like an A or a B. So the latest one I'm on is H. That'll be released. So that will become just 406 and then be released. And that includes some new facilities, a lot more stability, notifications going around between the panes, and some new options in here regarding save and restore. So now it will automatically do the save and restore for you if you want it to. So you can say just use a built-in save and restore table, and it will do that for you. And it'll be called DP layouts. So you've got that, and yeah, you can set the path. You can encrypt it if you need to encrypt it, and pass it some options, and so on. So so there's no more embedding of code for save and restore. It will just do it for you in its own table.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's so I would say wait till that one comes out. Give it a run out. Obviously, report back. Let me know, and if there is anything, then we can look at it and apply the update to the release should we need to.
Okay. Will do. Thanks.
Okay. No problem. And then last but not least, Alejandro says, I have a question. So you come to the right place. Alejandro.
Hello, Andy. How are you?
I'm good. Yourself?
I'm very good. Thanks. Okay. Andy, can you make me a favor, please? Can you open the command bar example?
Ooh. Right. I've got a beta version of a version in place. So let me just do something different.
Okay. Do you have the easy resize from Capesoft template?
Yes.
Okay.
Just let me check this isn't the my version. Just 1 second. Yeah, I don't think it's that one. Sorry, just did some checks to make sure I'm not going to overwrite the one. Well, it's to do with easy resize, is it? So let's just copy in the thing, and I'll just do it. Bring a new one in.
Are you still in quarantine?
No, I'm back at the office.
Okay.
Much better.
Good to know.
Oh no, CommandBars you said. Oh, won't be a second. Okay. So where are we? Yep. All going here today. It's a busy office. You can tell we're out of quarantine. Right. I don't want to be in that version because the latest is it's an alpha release, so I don't want to be using that. So let's use this.
Okay.
Well, I just created the. Am I cracking up? I could have sworn I just created an example here.
You have there a command bar with easy resize.
Did I? I've got this. It's this low sun at this time of year, and it's coming straight through the window at me, and I can't see a bean. Where are we? Webinars. Yes, sorry there.
Yes, that's one.
$19.5, $19.3. Okie dokie. Oh. Okay. Yep, fire away.
Okay, go to the ribbon bar.
That's it.
No,
just ribbon.
Yes, this one. Okay, perfect. Let's go now and insert the easy resize template in the global extension, please. Yes, and let's go now to the ribbon bars procedure and insert the easy resize extension. And delete, of course, the allow the resizer of Clarion. Okay, just this.
Ooh.
Make move the mouse over the OCX. Okay. Yes, we have the same behavior.
Now, when did that come about? Because that never used to be the case. We've yeah, we make sure that we are compatible with those. So I take it something's changed in Resize and Split, is it?
Yes, I think.
Yeah, it's a repaint issue. Okay,
Yes.
well, first off, I would
think,
ask Bruce what's he changed, because that never used to be the case. So something's changed, because we detect. I know of one thing I do need to look at. Correct, is if you disable.
Okay, I made some tests today. I solved it commenting the event sizer inside the class of Bruce. So, but if you open his class, Resize and Split.
Well, we should really cover this on Wednesday and let and cover it with Bruce, so we can actually look at it at the same time. That would make probably a better because we can both look at it at the same time. But let me just have a quick look at Resize. Resize, I'm just trying to find it. Resize and Split. Yep, got it. Okay.
See the game focus.
Oh, what's that doing over there? There. Yep.
Yes, but no, not that. The game focus event. Sorry, event : game focus. Sorry.
Right. Okay.
Yes. There, you have an old version of the Easy Resizer, maybe, because the new one have a post-event sizer. Which version do you have of the Easy Resize? Or maybe I have the old.
506. Where's he?
Yes. No, I have the 506. Can you open the class again, please? Let me check something. Case event, close window, close down. Focus.
Is it this one? In the take event? MDI
yes,
window?
Yes. No, but this is okay. This is easy MDI window. Check again. Please looking for game focus again.
Well, what
class CS Resize class. The object is CS Resize class. Exactly. And the method is take event.
He's not in alphabetical order. All right, take event. Yes, Resize class there. Yeah, okay.
Yes. Okay, maybe. Okay, but if I have an old version, I see here in my version 506, but we have different code, but we have the same behavior. Okay, so. Okay.
Yeah, path. It's strange why we both got different, different code, but same. Easy Resize, easy app window, take event. There's only the 3.
Maybe maybe I am because I was making changes, testing, and maybe I changed the class. But anyway, you have the same behavior than me using this class or with this. So the behavior is the same. So I let you that one to check it, please.
Yeah, just making a note. CommandBar plus yeah, easy resize. Paint issue. Initial paint issue. Okay. But a redraw would sort it. Yeah. So it's responding to redraws. Oh no. No. That's still got issues. Now something's changed on this, definitely.
Yes. Yes, for sure.
Right, that's probably a project. That's probably a subject for Wednesday then, and we'll bring Bruce in at the same time, and we'll between the pair of us, we'll find out what's gone on. So
okay.
Yep.
I think be the best.
Okie dokie.
Okay.
Right. Oh yeah.
Thank you very much.
No problem. Okay, well with that, where are we? We are 1 hour 17. That's actually I was a few minutes late, but we're still good for time. No other questions, so we're going to wrap it up. Thank you very much. Watch out for the DockingPane new release, bigger and better as always. And then the one after that, there will be a small incremental update to the ReportControl, which is the drag and drop, which we've mentioned and displayed. Then the update after that will be the CommandBar, which will be a lot faster than this one. So we can see some speeds here. When that opens, it takes so much, and we know that the new one is so much faster in its response and its painting and so on and so forth. So watch out for that. But I'm not going to put a time on it yet, but we will put a time on the DockingPane, and that is, fingers crossed, tomorrow. Okie dokie. Right. Until next week, I shall see you all then. Thank you very much.